What happens when a band's potential is cut short by the untimely death of its frontman? Bradley Nowell, the lead singer of the iconic ska-punk band Sublime, tragically passed away at just 28, leaving a massive void in the music world. His death not only marked the end of a brilliant career, but also sparked questions about the band's legacy. Let's explore the history of Sublime and the profound impact Bradley Nowell's passing had on both the group and its fans. Bradley Nowell, the frontman of the iconic ska-punk band Sublime, had a promising future ahead of him as his band began to gain significant recognition in the early 1990s. However, as Nowell entered his 20s and found himself amidst the whirlwind of success, fame, and pressure, he made a fateful decision that would forever alter his life. He decided to try heroin. In an interview, Nowell's father reflected on his son's reasoning for taking the drug, saying, his excuse for taking the heroin was that he felt like he had to be larger than life. He was leading the band, leading his fans, and he had to put on this persona. Nowell, being the charismatic leader of Sublime, felt the immense pressure of maintaining an image that was larger than life, one that matched the energy and rebellious nature of the music that the band was producing. Many musicians, including some of his idols, had openly admitted to using heroin, often citing its purported ability to enhance creativity. Nowell, surrounded by this culture, was drawn to the idea that heroin could fuel his creative process and help him keep up with the demands of both his music career and the persona he felt compelled to embody. Initially, Nowell might have viewed heroin as a tool to sharpen his creative edge, but it quickly became a crutch he could not escape. The once promising frontman became addicted, and this struggle with heroin would deeply impact both his personal life and his career. As his addiction worsened, it became more apparent in his behavior and the themes of his music. Many of Sublime's songs reflect the turbulent realities of Nowell's life, including his battle with addiction. The lyrics in these songs paint a picture of the personal demons he was wrestling with, making it clear that the pressure of fame, combined with his substance abuse, was beginning to take a heavy toll on his mental and physical well-being. One of the most haunting glimpses into Nowell's mindset during this period is the song Pool Shark, where he seems to forewarn his own fate. In the song, Nowell sings the line, "One day I'm gonna lose the war," which some interpret as a chilling prediction of his own death. The song's lyrics reflect the internal conflict of a man who knows he's on a destructive path, but feels powerless to stop it. It's as if Nowell, even in his moments of lucidity, understood that heroin had taken hold of him in a way that would eventually lead to his downfall. On the morning of May 25, 1996, the members of Sublime were in the midst of a 5-day tour through Northern California, gearing up for an even bigger European and East Coast tour. They were staying at the Ocean View Motel in San Francisco, later known as the Seascape Inn. It was during this moment, while the band was on the road and excitement about their rising success was palpable, that the unthinkable happened. Drummer Bud Gow woke up that morning to find his bandmate, frontman Bradley Nowell, lying lifeless on the floor, next to his bed. Gaw's first reaction was confusion. He thought perhaps Nowell had simply fallen out of bed or was too intoxicated to get back in after a night of partying. However, something was immediately off. The sight of Nowell's lifeless body, combined with the unsettling presence of his Dalmatian lewd dog, curled up on the bed whimpering, quickly turned a moment of casual observation into a horrific realization. Nowell had tried to wake up his fellow bandmates earlier that morning, suggesting they go to the beach, but they were all too hungover and tired to leave their rooms. Nowell had taken on his usual role as the energetic life of the party persona, but that morning he was alone in his final moments. Initially, Gaw thought that Nowell was simply passed out from intoxication, but as he examined the situation more closely, he noticed something chilling: a yellow film around Nowell's mouth. It was a grim sign that something was far more serious than a hangover or a bad night. In that moment, Gaw called for paramedics, but it was already too late. Nowell had passed away several hours earlier, and by the time emergency responders arrived, there was nothing they could do. Bradley Nowell was pronounced dead at the scene, leaving the world stunned by the loss of the talented and charismatic frontman of Sublime. The cause of death was later confirmed as a heroin overdose. The news of Nowell's death came as a crushing blow to the band, his family, and his many fans. Sublime was on the verge of stardom, and Nowell's tragic passing robbed the world of the potential future music that he would have undoubtedly created. Sublime's self-titled album, which was recorded before his death, would go on to become one of the defining records of the 90s, with tracks like What I Got and Santoria, encapsulating the band's unique blend of ska, punk, reggae, and rock. The album captured the spirit of a band in its prime, but it would also serve as a posthumous tribute to Nowell's enduring talent. In the wake of his death, Nowell was cremated, and his ashes were scattered at Surfside, California, his favorite surfing spot. The place held deep personal significance for Nowell, who had always been an avid surfer. It was fitting that his ashes were scattered in the ocean, a place he loved and found solace in. Later, a headstone was placed at Westminster Memorial in Westminster, California. To honor his memory, the tribute marked a place for fans, friends, and family, to remember a musician whose life and career had been tragically cut short. 8 months after Bradley Nowell's tragic death, the music world came together to honor his memory and to raise awareness about the dangers of addiction. In December 1996, No Doubt, one of the most popular bands of the 90s, headlined a cautionary benefit concert in tribute to Nowell, with a clear focus on using his passing as a platform for drug awareness and prevention. Nowell's widow, Troy, played an instrumental role in organizing the event, making it clear from the outset that the goal of the concert was not to glamorize Nowell's death, but rather to shed light on the very real and destructive consequences of substance abuse. The concert, which was a star-studded affair, served as a testament to the profound impact Nowell had on the music community. His death was a tragic reminder of the pressures and struggles many musicians face, and the event sought to use that tragedy as a catalyst for change. Proceeds from the concert went to a non-profit organization that provided support for musicians struggling with drug addiction, highlighting the industry's dark underbelly that often remains hidden behind the glamour of fame. Additionally, a portion of the funds raised was earmarked for a scholarship fund for Nowell's young son Jakob, ensuring that his memory would live on and that his son would be supported as he grew up without his father. For Nowell's family and friends, the concert was not only a way to honor him, but also an opportunity to reflect on the broader issues surrounding addiction. The event aimed to send a clear message that while Nowell's music had touched countless fans, his battle with heroin ultimately led to his untimely death. The concert's focus was on prevention, on helping others avoid the same fate, and on providing support to those who might find themselves caught in a similar struggle. In the wake of Nowell's passing, there was much speculation about the future of Sublime. The surviving members of the band, drummer Bud Gaw and bassist Eric Wilson, expressed a firm stance that they had no interest in continuing to perform or record under the Sublime name without Nowell. In an interview, Sublime's manager, Jason Westfall, echoed this sentiment, stating, "Just like Nirvana, Sublime died when Brad died. To them, Nowell had been the heart and soul of the band, and it was inconceivable to carry on without him." For many fans and critics, this decision felt like the natural course of action, as Nowell's voice and unique songwriting style were irreplaceable. For years, the surviving members of Sublime remained focused on their individual pursuits, and the idea of a reunion seemed almost impossible. But as time passed, the band's legacy only grew, with Sublime's music continuing to resonate with new generations of fans. In 2023, nearly 3 decades after Nowell's death, something unexpected happened. The surviving members of Sublime decided to reunite, but this time with a new twist. Nowell's son, Jakob, stepped into the role of lead vocalist. This marked a poignant and emotional chapter in the band's history, as Jakob Nowell took on the mantle of his father, leading the band into a new era while honoring the legacy of the man who had founded Sublime. Now, let's look back at the history of the band Sublime. In the past, Eric Wilson and Bud Gaw, 2 of the founding members of the iconic ska-punk band Sublime, had a close bond that began long before their musical careers took off. Growing up together in the same Long Beach neighborhood, the 2 became childhood friends with their shared passion for music, serving as the foundation for a lifelong partnership. If long, Eric's father, Billy Wilson, played a pivotal role in shaping the musical development of both Eric and Bud. A seasoned musician, Billy taught Gaw how to read music and play the drums, giving him the technical foundation that would serve him throughout his career. This early exposure to music not only bonded Eric and Bud, but also laid the groundwork for what would later become Sublime. During their high school years, Eric, Bud, and a close friend, Michael Hepholt, who would later become the band's manager, formed a 3-piece punk band called the Juice Brothers. The trio played together during their formative years, developing a style that reflected their shared love for punk rock. Their early musical influences were rooted in the fast, raw energy of punk, but this would soon change when a pivotal figure entered their lives. Bradley Nowell, who had recently dropped out of the University of California, Santa Cruz, brought with him not only a fresh perspective on music, but also a new set of influences. A fan of both punk rock and reggae, Nowell introduced Eric and Bud to the world of reggae and ska. At the time, the 2 had been exclusively immersed in the world of punk rock, but Nowell's passion for these genres opened their eyes to a new world of music. The fusion of punk, reggae, and ska would go on to become the defining sound of Sublime, a unique blend that set them apart from other bands and would influence generations of musicians. Sublime's first performance took place on the 4th of July, 1988, on the Long Beach Peninsula in Belmont Shore. The band's eclectic fusion of styles, punk rock, reggae, ska, and even elements of jazz and funk was ahead of its time. But it was not immediately embraced by the music venues in their area. Many of the local clubs and bars were skeptical of the band's unconventional sound and refused to book them. In response, the band decided to take matters into their own hands. They created their own label, Skunk Records, a move that not only allowed them to release their own music, but also gave them a sense of legitimacy in the eyes of potential venues. When booking shows, the band proudly presented themselves as Skunk Records recording artists, a label that made them appear more established and accomplished, which in turn helped them book more performances. During the early years of their career, Sublime focused primarily on playing parties and small clubs throughout Southern California. They built a loyal fan base by playing alongside local ska bands such as Smokestacks, No Doubt, and Skeletons. These small gigs allowed the band to hone their skills and experiment with their unique fusion of genres. They also spent this time recording a few songs and creating a number of short demos, refining their sound and developing their identity as a band. Although they were still a relatively unknown act at this point, their music began to resonate with a growing local audience, and their reputation started to spread. In February 1990, Bradley Nowell made a decision that would not only change his life, but also leave a lasting impact on the culture of Sublime. He adopted a puppy from a shelter, a Dalmatian who had been abused. He named the puppy Louie after his grandfather, but the dog quickly became more than just a pet. He became a beloved mascot for the band. Louie, who was affectionately referred to as King Louis or Lou Dog, was often seen at Sublime's shows, wandering around the stage during the band's concerts. His presence became iconic, adding an endearing element to the band's performances, and helping to solidify the personal, down-to-earth image that Sublime cultivated. Lou Dog's frequent appearances at shows, his playful antics, and his undeniable charm made him a symbol of the carefree, rebellious energy that characterized the band's music. Sublime's early performances were characterized by their raw, energetic sound and DIY spirit. One of their notable venues in 1990 was a downtown Long Beach club called Toe Jam. This intimate club, owned and operated by David Rice, James Walker, Jason Birch, and Jeff King, became one of the key spots where Sublime honed their craft and built their fan base. Toe Jam was more than just a venue. It was a gathering place for local musicians, a space where creative energy flowed freely. In February 1991, a private party was held at Toe Jam to celebrate one of the club's owners, and this event played a significant role in the band's early journey. The owners of Toe Jam were instrumental in the early days of Sublime, and a special thanks to them can be found on the back of Sublime's later album, 40 Ounces to Freedom. Toe Jam became a place where Sublime's sound was shaped, and where the local music scene embraced the band's eclectic mix of punk, reggae, ska, and rock. In late 1990, the band's path crossed with that of a music student named Michael Miguel Hopholt, who was studying at a local school. Hopholt, recognizing the raw talent and potential of Sublime, offered the band a valuable opportunity. He invited them to use the recording studio at the school where he was studying. The band eagerly accepted, but their excitement led them to an unconventional approach. Instead of booking a proper recording session, the band decided to sneak into the studio at night, recording from midnight to 7 in the morning. The impromptu recording session, which involved a mix of improvisation and determination, resulted in the creation of the cassette tape Jaw Won't Pay the Bills, which was released in 1991. Jaw Won't Pay the Bills quickly became a fan favorite, helping Sublime gain a grassroots following throughout Southern California. The tape featured early versions of songs that would go on to become staples of the band's later albums, giving listeners a glimpse into the band's evolving sound. The raw, unpolished quality of the recording only added to its charm, as it captured the unfiltered energy and authenticity that would define Sublime's music. This cassette tape was more than just a collection of songs. It was a symbol of the band's DIY ethos, their willingness to take risks, and their determination to make music on their own terms. By the early 1990s, Sublime had cultivated a substantial and devoted following throughout California. The band's energetic live shows, eclectic sound, and DIY approach to music had allowed them to stand out in the local music scene, particularly in Southern California. Their growing fan base was built on their raw, infectious live performances, which were characterized by a blend of punk, ska, reggae, surf rock, and even hip-hop, genres that rarely came together in such a seamless way. The combination of these diverse influences allowed Sublime to create a sound that was both unique and accessible, one that captured the laid-back yet rebellious spirit of California youth. In 1992, Sublime released 40 Ounces to Freedom, their debut full-length album, under Nowell's own label, Skunk Records. This album marked a significant milestone in the band's career. While they had been building a loyal fan base with their live performances, 40 Ounces to Freedom helped solidify Sublime's place in the musical landscape. The album was a true representation of the band's genre-blending style, combining elements of ska, reggae, punk, surf rock, and hip-hop in a way that had never been done before. The record was a raw, authentic reflection of the band's energy and creativity, and it resonated deeply with fans who were looking for something different from the mainstream music of the time. Initially, 40 Ounces to Freedom was sold exclusively at Sublime's live shows, a strategy that helped to further foster a sense of community between the band and their fans. It was a true underground release at first, with the album circulating through the grassroots network of Sublime's growing fan base. The album became an emblem of the local Southern California music scene, gaining traction through word of mouth and the fervent loyalty of fans who had discovered Sublime through live performances or local clubs. However, it wasn't until the rock radio station KR Rock in Los Angeles began playing Date Rape, one of the standout tracks from the album, that 40 Ounces to Freedom began to gain broader recognition. Date Rape became an unexpected hit, resonating with listeners for its bold, controversial lyrics and catchy melody. The song's success on KROQ helped propel the album into the mainstream, especially within the greater Los Angeles area. As radio play increased, 40 Ounces to Freedom gained more widespread attention, and Sublime's fan base expanded beyond the small club scene. The album's success on the radio also brought new fans who had yet to see the band live, but were drawn in by the infectious, genre-defying sound that had earned the band a reputation as one of California's most exciting acts. By 1996, just a few years after its release, 40 Ounces to Freedom had sold more than 209,000 copies, significantly outperforming even the band's later self-titled album in terms of sales at the time. This impressive sales figure was a testament to the album's lasting impact and the strength of Sublime's connection with their audience. The album's mix of upbeat, catchy tunes and introspective lyrics continued to resonate with listeners, and it became a defining work for the band. In 1992 and 1993, Sublime briefly signed with Danny Holloway's True Sound imprint, which represented a temporary step toward a more mainstream music career. However, despite this brief association, the band decided to remain with their original label, Skunk Records, a move that maintained their DIY ethos and allowed them more creative control over their music. This period marked a pivotal time for Sublime, as their popularity continued to grow in their hometown of Long Beach and across Southern California. Yet, It wasn't until June 1994 that a more significant shift occurred when they were signed to the Gasoline Alley label, a division of MCA Records by John Phillips, who would go on to become the band's manager. This was a key turning point for Sublime, marking the beginning of their entry into the larger commercial music scene. In 1994, Sublime released Robin the Hood, their second full-length album. Unlike their debut 40 Ounces to Freedom, which blended punk rock, reggae, and ska in a polished, energetic style, Robin the Hood was a more experimental effort. The album took a more eclectic approach, incorporating an unpredictable mixture of rock, rap, spoken word nonsense, and even folk-leaning acoustic home recordings. Many of the tracks were recorded in unconventional settings, sometimes in the most rudimentary home studio environments, giving the album a raw and gritty feel. The blend of styles, along with the band's willingness to experiment, made the album a complex and challenging listen for some. And as a result, Robin the Hood was not as commercially successful as its predecessor. Despite its creative ambition, the album struggled to gain mainstream attention and was considered a commercial failure at the time. Nevertheless, Sublime's popularity began to gradually expand beyond the West Coast. This shift was in large part due to the growing radio airplay of Date Rape, a track from 40 Ounces to Freedom that became a breakout hit. As the song gained more traction on radio stations, especially in the greater Los Angeles area, Sublime's fan base began to grow significantly. The band continued to tour extensively throughout 1994 and 1995, steadily increasing their reach and gaining new fans as they spread their unique sound across the country. In 1995, Sublime took their music on the road, with a high-profile appearance on the inaugural nationwide Vans Warped Tour. This was an important milestone in the band's career as it exposed them to a much wider audience, including fans of skateboarding, punk, and alternative music. However, the band's time on the Warped Tour was marred by controversy and unruly behavior, leading to Sublime being asked to leave the tour for a week. According to drummer Bud Gaw, the band's daily routine involved excessive drinking, often leading to a chaotic atmosphere. Their sense of humor and antics, which they considered part of the fun, were not always understood by others, and this contributed to tensions with other bands and tour organizers. The situation escalated when Lou Dog, the band's beloved Dalmatian mascot, bit 4 different individuals, further compounding the problems. The band's behavior was often seen as disruptive, but it was part of the larger, unapologetic persona that Sublime had cultivated throughout their career. Reflecting on the Warped Tour experience, Gaw explained that the band's routine was centered around drinking and mischief, which caused friction with others on the tour. Despite the fallout, the band's participation in the Warped Tour helped cement their reputation as a rebellious, no-holds-barred act in the music scene. After the Warped Tour, Sublime continued to tour with their Three Rings Circus Tour, another high-energy run that further solidified their connection with fans across the country. However, as the band continued to tour and gain popularity, pressure began to mount for them to produce new studio material. The success of 40 Ounces to Freedom and the growing fan base from Robin the Hood meant that there was anticipation for new music, and Sublime was expected to follow up their previous work with another album. Despite the band's often chaotic lifestyle and their reluctance to conform to industry expectations, the pressure to create a commercially viable album became unavoidable. In early 1996, Sublime was riding high on the momentum of their growing popularity and their increasingly devoted fan base. They had just completed a successful stint on the inaugural Vans Warped Tour, and their music was steadily gaining traction on radio. With this momentum, Sublime headlined the first Snowcore tour, a major milestone for the band. This tour was one of the band's most significant efforts, allowing them to further expand their audience and reach new fans across the country. It was a crucial point in their career, as they were becoming known outside of their home base in California, and their unique blend of punk, ska, reggae, and rock was resonating with listeners from various musical backgrounds. In February of 1996, just months before his tragic death, Bradley Nowell and the band began recording what would become their self-titled third album, Sublime. This album marked a new chapter for the band, as it would be their major label debut. Signed under MCA Records, the recording process was a mix of anticipation and personal turmoil, as the band was balancing their growing success with the internal struggles of Nowell, who was battling his heroin addiction. The record would go on to become the band's defining album, but it would also be the last one Nowell ever worked on, as his life would come to a tragic end before its release. On May 25, 1996, just days after their final live show in Petaluma, California, on May 24th, Nowell was found dead in his motel room in San Francisco, California. He had died of a heroin overdose just 2 months before the release of Sublime. Nowell was 28 years old. His death was a devastating blow to the band, as well as to the millions of fans who had connected with his music and his message. Nowell's passing was particularly heartbreaking because the band had poured so much of their energy into the creation of their new album, and Nowell himself had been in the midst of the recording process, the band's hopes for their future, as well as their musical legacy, were abruptly shattered. The tragic loss of Nowell was kept from many fans at first, and, as a result, Sublime was released in July 1996 with much anticipation. The album quickly became a massive success, marking the band's breakthrough into the mainstream. The record's success was propelled by the single What I Got, which quickly became a smash hit. The song peaked at #1 on the modern rock chart, and remains one of Sublime's most iconic tracks. The infectious melody, catchy lyrics, and Nowell's unmistakable voice resonated with listeners on a massive scale, and the song became an anthem for an entire generation. Sublime went on to achieve critical and commercial success, earning the band worldwide fame and recognition. The album was certified 5 times platinum by the Recording Industry Association of America, RIAA, in December 1999, making it one of the most successful albums of the 1990s. In addition to What I Got, the album featured several other posthumous singles, including Santeria, Doin' Time, Wrong Way, and April 29, 1992, Miami. Each of these songs received significant airplay on rock and alternative radio stations, further cementing the band's place in the music scene. Despite the success of Sublime, the surviving members of the band were struggling with the grief of losing Nowell. Sublime's manager, Jason Westfall, was quoted as saying that the band had no interest in continuing under the Sublime name without Nowell. His words reflected the deep sense of loss and finality the band felt after his death. Much like Nirvana's survival after Kurt Cobain's passing, Sublime's identity was inseparable from Nowell, and the band's creative soul had been extinguished with his death. Just like Nirvana, Sublime died when Brad died, Westfall said, capturing the feeling that the band had lost not just a frontman, but a brother and a friend. On December 11, 2023, Sublime's surviving members, bassist Eric Wilson and drummer Bud Gaw, reunited to perform with Jakob Nowell, the son of the late Bradley Nowell, as the lead vocalist during a benefit show for HR, the legendary frontman of the influential punk band Bad Brains. The event took place at the Teragram Ballroom in Los Angeles, and it marked a significant moment for the Sublime legacy, as Jakob Nowell had recently begun stepping into his father's shoes. The performance was both a celebration of music and a tribute to HR, but it also symbolized a new chapter for Sublime, with Jakob Nowell leading the band in a way that honored the legacy of his father while carving out his own path. The show received an overwhelming response from fans, many of whom were excited to see the reunion of Wilson and Gaw, as well as the addition of Jakob to the band's lineup. Just over a month later, on January 16, 2024, Sublime made a big announcement. They would be part of the lineup for the 2024 Coachella Festival. This news was especially exciting for fans, as it confirmed that Jakob Nowell would officially become a full-time member of the band. Sublime had long been a staple of alternative music culture, and their inclusion in the prestigious Coachella Festival lineup solidified their place in the contemporary music scene. The press release from the band also hinted at more performances to come, confirming that Sublime would be performing at additional music festivals throughout 2024. It was clear that the band was re-emerging with a renewed sense of purpose and excitement, ready to introduce a new generation of fans to their distinctive sound. In May 2024, Sublime released a new single titled Feel Like That, featuring the roots reggae group Stick Figure. The collaboration showcased the band's continued evolution, blending their signature sound with Stick Figure's reggae-influenced style, creating a fresh and vibrant track that resonated with both old and new fans. Feel Like That marked an important milestone in the band's journey, as it was the first new music from Sublime in years, and it hinted at the possibility of a full-length album in the near future. Fans were excited to hear new material and thrilled by the prospect of more music to come. However, 2024 also brought an end to the era of Sublime with Rome, as the band disbanded by the end of the year. This version of the band, which had been formed in 2009 with singer Rome Ramirez stepping in as lead vocalist, had found success with albums like Yours Truly and Blessings. But with the reformation of Sublime with Jakob Nowell, the band had decided to move in a different direction. The disbanding of Sublime with Rome marked the end of that particular chapter, but it opened the door for a fresh start with the original surviving members and Jakob Nowell. By March 2025, Sublime was already teasing the next big step in their evolution, a new studio album, which would be their first since their 1996 self-titled album. This new album would be produced with the help of Travis Barker, the renowned drummer from Blink-182, and John Feldman, the influential producer known for his work with bands like Goldfinger and The Used. The collaboration with Barker and Feldman was a significant signal of the band's commitment to pushing their sound forward while honoring their roots. Fans were eager to hear what the reformed Sublime would create with these two high-profile collaborators, and the news of the upcoming album was met with widespread anticipation. What do you think about Bradley Nowell's death and his impact on the band Sublime? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this, and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.